Hey guys, biomimicry and marriage. Two words I did not think that I would be putting together until it occurred to me it's actually a perfect fit. So in biology, mimics something else, in this case, marriage. It's actually kind of a perfect fit, I realized. So I have this big property that we're gonna walk through together, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about marriage and how much it's the same as this property, and hopefully there'll be something beneficial that you get out of it. Let me tell you, when I started with this property, I got this big old property thinking, well, other people do it, so I should be able to do it. It can't be that hard, right? Sounds kind of like the commitment with marriage, doesn't it? Other people are doing it. It can't be that hard, right? And I liked a lot of things about it. I realized there might be some things that needed to change, but you change with time, right? So if you think about it, it's actually kind of a perfect analogy to marriage. So let's take a walk through the property, check it out, and see if you agree. All right, first up, let's talk about the pastures. So they're wide open and usually green, probably green when I bought it. But as you can see now, they're yellow. So one of the things that I didn't know being from Oregon, and I learned now in Texas, is that the grass in the pasture is gonna be green and really lush sometimes during the year. And sometimes during the year, it's gonna be dry and desolate and frankly, not that pretty. So kind of like marriage, right? There are those times where it's lush and good, and then there are the times where it's just kind of dry. But it's all to be expected, and it's all cyclical. I think it's important to remember if you're in a dry spot, like I did when we first moved here, to say, man, this stuff is dry and kind of ugly, but it gets better. And now that I'm used to the cyclical aspect of it, I know I can count on it being green and lush again. I don't worry so much. But what I do think about are the weeds in this pasture. Let me tell you, I'm not a big fan of weeds, okay? And if you go through this place of mine, you're gonna see a lot of weeds. I don't know if you can see those little yellow flowers and things that drive me absolutely bananas. But here's the deal. I had people I could go to who have had their pastures longer than I have and who know how to do the stuff that gets rid of most of these weeds. So fortunately, I go over to my neighbor, which in your case, I would hope that these would be friends of your marriage. It's really important to get friends of your marriage. People who have been doing it longer and who know some of the tools, tips and tricks that make a good marriage. Find those people, communicate with them. Don't be too proud to go ask. There's a part of me that's super independent. And so of course I wanted to do this on my own. Can't be that hard, right? I've had a lawn before, so I thought it should be about the same. It's not. It's not. You've had relationships before, so you might think it would be the same. You can take lessons learned. It's different sometimes when you have a bigger lawn, a pasture, a marriage, a bigger relationship. So what I found out is this. I have to have pre-emergent, okay? So I've got to do something before the weeds come in. So the pre-emergent is going to be something that is time-consuming, right? I've got to spray for it. So in marriage, it's like, are you reading books every once in a while? Are you watching some videos on marriage? Are you doing some things to kind of help yourself before the weeds pop up? Hopefully you are. And if not, like some years when I've lived at this property, I've had a lot more to do. So I haven't had the time to do the pre-emergent. And so then I'm dealing with post-emergent. I'm dealing with the opportunity, let's call it, to go deal with all of the weeds that popped up because I didn't have time to do the pre-emergent. So the post-emergent is now going to be a spray that I have to attack all of the pasture with, right? Because the weeds popped up and they spread, just like weeds in your marriage. If there are little things in your marriage and you ignore them or you don't have time to deal with them, they're going to get bigger and they're going to spread. That's just the way it works. So you got to deal with it. Doesn't mean that it's hopeless. It just means now you have something more you got to do. This time I have to mix in blue dye so I can see where I've sprayed because I need to hit every bit of the grass because there are so many weeds, right? It takes longer. I have to go slower. I have to really work it through. I have to do a couple of times spraying through. That's like marriage. I know it's easy sometimes to say, hey, we love each other and we're going to be together forever. But the truth is, no matter how committed you are to the land or the marriage, it's a whole lot easier to do something before the weeds come up than once the weeds do come up, they've spread and now you got a much bigger job. So I think you'll see it's okay to have dry spells. Know that the green spells are coming again. There are cycles. It's all cyclical. It happens to all of us. Go ask someone for help. I asked my neighbor, ask friends of your marriage for some help. Deal with the weeds with a pre-emergent mindset. Get them before they come in. If you see something little, go at it in a nice way. This doesn't have to be something that you go after the weeds and attack and, oh, we got to panic, because some years I panicked when I didn't get the pre-emergent down. But the truth is, it's okay. That's cyclical too. Sometimes you have more time to deal with stuff than others, but try to be at least aware of them so you can make a conscious decision and say, okay, I didn't hit it as soon as I should have, but let's hit it now before they spread even more. There's always an opportunity for growth. So I encourage you to look for ways to grow your marriage, just like this Military Marriage Day, before the problems get there, and find a kind, good way to explain it. My neighbors who help me, there have been times where they've been a little bit more assertive and a little bit more, you have to do this. And man, it put a lot of pressure on me. I didn't like it. And then there are the times where they're like, well, this is, what we know works. They know that mowing the grass all the time helps you not have to deal with weeds at all. If they can tell it to me kindly, I'm going to try to do it because I care about this land and this commitment. Maybe not the year they suggest it, maybe not the time they suggest it, but I'm going to listen. So if you're talking to your spouse, try not to do the you have to do this or we've got a bigger problem. It just causes panic. Try to do something a little bit softer and say, hey, I noticed this, and this is what I see has helped some other people. What do you think about trying it? Should we try this? All right, next up, we're going to look at the tree line. So when I got this property, there wasn't supposed to be a road next to me, but it turns out, as things happen, there was going to be a road. So I needed to build a barrier. And there are times in your marriage where you need to build a barrier, right? Something unexpected happens, you need to fortify the lines of your relationship. Well, for me, in this case, it was 421 trees that I planted. I did what I could afford. You're going to do what you have time for and energy for right now in your marriage. And then planted, watered, and got it going, right? 421 very small trees. As you can see, they've grown quite a bit, and that'll be the same in your marriage when you put a little bit of investment in. You'll get a much bigger payoff that'll keep growing the whole time you're married. My goal is to have every couple I know end up not the grumpy old couple, but the happiest couple when they're older, right? By the time you're older, you shouldn't be sick of each other. You should have done so much investing in your marriage that you're happiest, happier than you've ever been. And wouldn't that be nice? Kind of a counterpoint to all the other things that happen when we age. So you can see behind me, there is a line of trees that goes all the way back, right? It goes around the property. So after this investment, we get hit with something called a bagworm. I don't know if you're familiar with bagworms, but let me tell you, they are straight from the pits of hell. I came over here because I knew there would be one in this area. Yeah, here's one right here. Let's see if you can see it. Let's see. Right there, guys. That is a bagworm. Well, bagworms are something that I had never dealt with before. I'd never even heard of a bagworm before. Here's the deal. They come in the hottest part of summer, May, June. They build those little sacks. They build it from needles on the tree. Okay, so they take something that I've invested in, they take it and they build this silk sack, and then they lay like 1,000 eggs in them, and the wind can take them from tree to tree just like a spider with that silk. They move. So I think about this like either a friend of your spouse who's not good for your marriage, something outside of your marriage that's not good for your marriage. Sometimes it's the job in the service community. And sometimes there's somebody who's really coming in strong for a big attack with infidelity. And they're all taking parts, like these bagworms, of what you've already invested in and care a lot about, right? Well, I'd never heard of bagworms, never seen them. That's going to happen in marriage. You're going to have something in your marriage that neither one of you has ever seen before or experienced before. And it's kind of terrifying when you realize it's like all over your marriage, right? And by the way, bagworms will kill trees. I've probably got 25 trees at least that have completely died from the bagworms. At first, the first year I hear, you got to hand pick them. That's the only way to get rid of them. Literally crying, pissed, cussing more than I've probably ever cussed in my life as I'm hand picking hundreds of bagworms off of 421 trees in the heat of summer. That's like 100 and something. My daughter got freaking heat stroke. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? I researched this, just like you in your marriage. You made a good decision. You thought about it before you married this person. You did all the research and then you come up and get hit with something like this that you didn't expect. So I started researching. Okay, so I pick all the bagworms the first year. The second year, my neighbor's like, there's got to be something that you can do to spray for these, right? So I talked to all the people I know. For you, it might be coaches, friends of your marriage, something like that, where you're like, can you help me with my marriage? And nobody knows. They all are like, you just got to do this hard work of hand picking. But you're hand picking and it keeps coming around and it's not working. So then finally, it was sort of by the grace of God, I think, I get an expert on trees for a totally other reason. I wanted him to pull out the trees that died. And he said, have you ever tried like Dawn dish soap and this combination of chemicals and sprayed? Because this will actually work. Now, mind you, I've spent 4 years hand picking and trying different methods, losing some of the trees, just like you in your marriage might have had an issue that came up that was totally unexpected. You totally weren't familiar with it. All of a sudden, it's taking away part of the investment you've made in your marriage. You've done what other people have told you to do, and it's still not working. Well, at Taya and Kyle Foundation, we have a 2-year program that I like to think of as hopefully part of what I found with bagworms in this solution of you just got to have the right tools, the right opportunity to fix it. You got to know the right person who can give you the right tools, and then it's not so bad. For the first time ever, guys, I was able to use the spray that the guy told me about last year. My kids helped me spray the trees back and front one time, and we do not have trees dropping from bagworms. Now we're gonna have some bagworms like that one. I gotta pick that off so that its 1,000 eggs don't turn into 1,000 bagworms that multiplies. But that's like marriage. If you have a problem with the border, the fortifying of your marriage, you gotta address it. You gotta find the right people. You gotta not stop because it can drag on for years. It's obviously such a relief when you find the right solution, and then it doesn't take so dang much time. And every once in a while, you might have to go back and pick off one of the bagworms from the time that the border was broken. But that's life. That's biomimicry right there for you. Biology, nature, and marriage all together. All right, up next, something else. Okay, y'all, this is my tractor, okay? If you'd have told me I'd been driving a tractor one day, I'd have been like, I think I got the wrong girl here, but look, I got a batwing on this tractor, okay? This is complex. Let me tell you, when I first started doing this, I had a little tractor that came with the house. It took me forever to mow, and I was white knuckling that thing, calling my neighbor in tears because something wasn't working. I couldn't figure it out. Isn't that like marriage? Like you have this thing in marriage where you have a tool, it's kind of older, but it should work, and sometimes the tool's not working, you're just so dang frustrated. Now my old tractor, I had goggles and I'm allergic to cut grass, so I had a mask on, and I'd have headphones so I could listen to music. I looked like a skier in the middle of summer, and I would be covered in dirt and all this because it was an open air cab, right? So I'm out there and I'm trying, and it's taking a long time, and it is a slog. And I didn't want to buy a new tractor because they're freaking expensive. And I didn't think that I needed to. I kind of had the tool that I thought worked okay. It wasn't ideal, but it worked okay. And I'd tell myself all the good things about the tool that I had. You know, I get some fresh air and whatever else. I get it, anyway. So at some point in your marriage, like me, I realized this is taking a long time to do it this way. I need a better tool. And it's time for me to invest in it. I know that going to counseling, going to get coaching, investing in books, or whatever the case may be, seems time consuming and not nearly as fun as renting a movie or doing something else, or making do with the tools that you have because it's good enough, it gets the job done. But your marriage is supposed to be the thing that carries you the rest of your life when everything else is gone, when friends come and go, when money comes and goes, sickness and health. At the end of the day, your marriage is the one thing that if you invest in now will last forever. And it makes your job a ton easier. This bad boy here has a cab that is air conditioned. This bat wing, it goes down, like these wings go down, and I can do 3 times as much in half the time. Well, if you have the right tools for your marriage, you can do 3 times as much in half the time. And don't you want that? Let me tell you, I actually look forward to getting in this tractor now. And I think that's what you want for your marriage. There are tools that are different for service marriages. They just are. We do a lot of stuff at the foundation, the Taya Kyle Foundation, where we work from a place of strengths. For me, that old tractor that I had, that wasn't going to use my strengths. I don't know how to do all the maintenance. I don't know how to, jimmy with things when they don't work. But if I get something that's the right tool for my skill set and uses my strengths, then I'm good. I can do this a whole lot more easily. And that's what we want for you for your marriage. Don't give up. Invest in it. Take the money. It's worth it. You won't regret it. Just like I don't regret this bad boy here. Okay, guys. So at the end of the day, you have to enjoy the thing that you're putting the work into. You have to find the time and the energy, use the money for your marriage. You've got to go on date nights, minimum once a month, minimum, hopefully more. I spent so much time on this property, crying, sweating, cussing, being pissed off, not knowing how to do things, working really hard and feeling like it wasn't enough, crying, asking God, can I please just sell this house? Like, I don't want this anymore. It's too hard. That can be like marriage. And I kept hearing a no back from God, right? So I stayed and I kept slogging it out. I dug my own flower beds and did everything to be frugal. And then this year, I finally hired a designer. He came in and he made this rose garden that I fully enjoy, right? It's got a fountain back there. It's got these little plants and roses that'll grow up. And I make a point of coming out and having coffee here in the morning. When Chris and I were first married and had a house, there was a deck off the master bedroom and we loved it. We were like gonna have coffee there every morning. We never did. Because I think you always think that you have plenty of time for that. So I make a point now. I have an investment in this property. I'm learning a lot. I'm committed to it. I'm making a point to get some joy out of it too. And these little plants, they're gonna grow up, man. They're gonna grow up and be so lush and beautiful and represent more of my vision for this. And yet, even as small as they are, they're bringing me joy because I see that I'm going somewhere with it. I don't regret for a second the money that I spent on the designer, and I don't think you'll regret the money you spend on a counselor, a coach, somebody with information on your specific, service marriage. If you find friends of your marriage, people who are doing a service marriage really well, have the courage to ask them what makes their marriage successful. Do your research and then enjoy the little changes. These little plants are going to grow. The little changes you do in your marriage are going to give you joy for just the hope that they bring, that your vision of what you want your marriage to be will come. And it will. These little changes, these little plants are going to grow into the big lush garden that I want and the big lush marriage that you want. So take time to enjoy it. One of the reasons that I want such a lush yard is that my dad would invest in ours. And I remember coming home to the flowers and how much joy it brought me. When you have joy in your marriage, you're going to inspire other people. Your kids, your nieces, your nephews, maybe other service couples. They're going to say, wow, that was something that really felt good to be around. I'd like to create that in my own yard marriage. You never know the ways that you might inspire others by doing just the small things and then enjoying the small things. So joy, 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 every bit of joy you can squeeze out of your marriage. Make the time, take the money, do it. It's worth it. You won't regret it. Thanks for hanging with me a little while on my property and looking at the biomimicry of marriage and nature. I wish you all the best.